Good evening and welcome to the February 9, 2022 Civil Service Commission meeting. Can we have roll call, please?
Commissioner Storian? Commissioner Storian?
Sorry, I was muted. Here.
Commissioner Hartunian?
Here.
Commissioner McCarley?
Present.
Commissioner Gazarian?
He hasn't, he has joined us. He's just muted. Could, Mr. Gazarian, can you hear us? Okay, we'll come.
Yes.
There he comes.
Yes.
Thank you.
I'm driving, sorry.
No problem.
Chair Karen.
Here. What's next?
Minutes for the meeting of January 12, 2022.
Could we have a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Move to approve. Second? Mr. Astorian seconded. Can we have roll? I think it's approved unanimously, unless if I hear otherwise. Okay, approved unanimously. Before we get to item number 4, I would like to move item number 6, reorganization of the commission, move it up before number 4. Accordingly, we can actually go ahead and take that. Unless if I hear any objections from any of the commissioners, I would like to move the reorganization of the commission from item number 6 to item number 4. Any objections? None heard. Accordingly, we'll move number 6 to be number 4. Could you read that into the record, please?
Reorganization of the commission.
Chair Abkarian, we also have number 3.
I'm sorry?
Oral communications.
There was no oral communications, I said, right?
Just double checking here. Correct, there's no oral communications.
There's no oral communications. I apologize. Thank you, Ms. Warpitian. Number 6 is reorganization of the commission for the chair and vice chair. May we get a nomination for chair for the commission?
I nominate Karen.
Second.
Commissioner Gazarian nominates Ms. Hartoonen. There was a second. Any other nominations? Hearing none, could we have roll call, please?
Commissioner McCarley?
Yes.
Commissioner Gazarian?
Yes.
Commissioner Abkarian?
Yes.
Commissioner Storian?
Yes.
Commissioner Hartunian?
Yes.
All right, with that, I'm going to go ahead and vacate the chair to the new chairperson, Mr. Hartunian, and I'll move over and have him continue the rest of the meeting.
Yes.
To open nominations for vice chair.
Good evening, everyone. Just a quick thank you for this honor and responsibility and the privilege. I'm just gonna get the meeting moving along right now, and I'll have a couple of comments at the end. But I think the commission now needs a vice chair, and I'd like to open the floor for nominations for a vice chair. Can I get a nomination, please?
I would like to nominate Greg Astorian for vice chair.
Second.
Okay, any other nominations? Hearing none, can we get a roll call, please?
Commissioner McCarley?
Yes.
Commissioner Gazarian?
Yes.
Commissioner Abkarian?
Yes.
Chair Hartunian?
Yes.
Commissioner Storian?
Yes.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. All right, what's next? I guess we're going back to item number 4.
Recruitment and examination report.
Ms. Martin?
Mr. Chair, members of the Commission, this is the regular recruitment and examination status report, which represents the current recruitment activity. Our staff is working on 63 different processes. which are at various stages in the selection process. This is a note and file item. However, if the commission has any questions, I'll be happy to try and answer them.
Any questions? Hearing none.
I think you need to give Ando a little bit more work to do. Just kidding, Ando, just kidding. No, I have no questions.
All right. What's next, Mr. Petrosian?
Eligible list established.
Ms. Martin?
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, these are the eligible lists that were established since our last meeting. The report includes the total number of applications received, as well as the number of applicants who participated at various stages in the examination process. And the report also includes the total number of individuals who ultimately were placed on the eligibility list. During this last reporting period, we have a total of 14 different lists that were established, 6 of which were promotional, 1 was open-end promo, and 7 were open only. This too is a note and file item. I will be happy to try and answer any questions, should you have any.
Any questions?
I just have one quick question. The item number 21-00090, it says librarian/children's services. Is that children's services for the library?
Yes, the
Or is that
library.
a broad, like children's services in the city that's under librarian? I would assume that would have a separate category on its own.
Mr. Commissioner Abkarian, this particular recruitment was for a librarian for the children's service specialty within the library services.
I got it. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? I have one, just a general broad question. Is the city now officially or unofficially out of the COVID freeze period as far as the recruitment, or are we still in some capacity under recruitment freeze?
Mr. Chair, the city is still under a hiring freeze, and special approvals are necessary through the city manager's office in order to commence a recruitment process and to fill vacancies.
Okay, thank you.
Of course.
What's next?
Class specifications for approval, underground distribution construction mechanic series, and underground distribution construction supervisor 2.
Ms. Martin, please.
Mr. Chair and members of the commission, the subject before you is the revised class specification for the underground distribution construction mechanic series and the underground distribution construction supervisor 2 classifications, both within the Glendale Water and Power Department. The series, both of the series were created in April of 2004, and the department is currently seeking to update the job functions and minimum requirements for the specific classifications to bring them more up to date with industry standards. Of particular note is the department is proposing to require a Class A driver's license by the end of the probationary period for the UDCM series. This will allow the incumbents to operate heavy equipment that are essential for everyday operations. I should note that this change would not affect any of our current staffing, as they currently all do possess the Class A driver's license. Additionally, the department is proposing to update the essential functions to reflect the current work duties of the UDCM series and eliminate the respiratory regulations for both of the classifications in the series, as it is no longer practiced or required by law. The IBEW has been provided the class specification for their review, as well as the GMA, and they've been given an opportunity to review the proposed changes, and we have not received any feedback or concerns relative to the proposed changes from either association at this time. With that, our electrical superintendent, John Wanner, is here to answer any questions you may have, as well as Ando Vardanyan from our staff.
Do we have any questions? Yes, Mr. McCarley?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I do have at least one question. And if I read correctly, this particular class specification now eliminates the requirement for respiratory equipment and ability to use respiratory equipment, or am I misinterpreting the document?
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, Chair McCarley, at this time, Superintendent John Wanner has approached the podium, and he will be able to answer that question.
Basically,
Thank you.
we would use the respirators. We would be first responders with Glendale Fire. Now there are first responders. It's not required. We have atmospheric testers that we use throughout. So right there, we don't even need the respirators.
So you're really not downgrading anything?
No, sir.
It's just not
It's not
used in
in our
industry
job
anymore at all?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Does that mean that one of these technicians, when entering an underground facility, would no longer need or require additional respiratory equipment? Has that, because of an advance in technology, been eliminated, or we just don't send them down into the cisterns of our city?
Yeah, if the tester is showing any abnormal atmospheric signs, then we don't put the guys down in there. We will not require them to put a respirator on, knowing we have a hazard down there, and hope the respirator would work. We won't do that to the people. We haven't
Fully
practiced that.
appreciate it.
Pardon me?
Yeah, fully appreciate the comment. However, as I am attempting to understand the dynamics, if, for instance, a supervisor in the supervisorial classification were to smell what he or she believed was a hazardous substance, then that would be a red flag, and the worker, the mechanic himself or herself, would be ordered out of the cistern?
Correct. And we have forced air constantly. So even if there was a smell, somebody smelled it, even on the outside, we would clear the area and get Glendale Fire out there to check the area.
And I suppose it's the least. We don't have our fire chief present, but the follow-on question would be, assuming that we have an environmental contaminant present, whether it's a noxious substance that was introduced into the system from another source, does that mean that we now defer to the fire department to move forward and to make the requisite repairs to those systems that are 6 to 12 feet underground?
Yeah, basically, they're our first responders. So that's what the change has been. In the past, if we had something go wrong, the electrical guys, we would go down in the vault and we would put our scuba or the respirator
Right.
on, go down, do our thing. But we don't do that anymore. Glendale Fire is our main people to get our guys out safely.
Yeah. I won't prolong this conversation, but your observation raises a very interesting question, because it expands the scope of the requirements, training, and understanding on the part of our fire department individuals. So now, if something were to take place, and there's a reasonable possibility that such a thing could take place, it's first responders at fire department that will enter into that cistern or cavern and execute immediate repairs, even if it's beyond the scope of their expertise. I suppose you'll communicate with them and tell them what needs to be done, but that is an advance in the breadth of responsibilities imposed on the uniformed services.
Yeah, I agree.
Sir, can I follow up with that, Commissioner McCarley? Do you mind?
Absolutely. Thank you, Chair.
Chair, is that
Former
okay
Chair.
with you? Of course. Okay, I just have a couple of, just want to understand this. There are monitors that monitor the quality, air quality
Yes, sir.
in the chambers. So if there's an irregularity, there will be some sign or something will go off saying there is something wrong in here,
Yeah,
correct?
so low oxygen, explosives. That's
Or
what we're testing
very,
for.
very heavy smell of something.
Well,
Does that do
certain
that or
things-
not?
Certain things lay down
Low?
to the ground, yeah.
Okay, so that
even
wouldn't be-
being in there, you don't know it's down there. That's why that tester's there, because you won't even know it.
Okay, so let me then follow that up. Then you would contact the fire department will come in, will secure the area to a point where the workers could go down there and repair I don't think fire department repairs
No,
the issue.
they do not do
Correct?
any electrical
They just go
repairs.
down there, secure the area to a point where it's actually safe for your department to go down there and fix the problem.
That's
Correct?
exactly correct.
Okay.
They're our lifeline. If we have any issues, fire department helps us.
So, Mr. McCarthy, maybe you can ask the chief to come in, the fire chief to come in next
I
week and just
think
kind of explain.
You are thinking along my lines. I don't want to retard the process of appreciating and moving forward and approving these, but it's an interesting issue, especially as we look at the period of time in which we find ourselves, potential for environmental contamination, climate change, and all those things that have created conditions that could be really detrimental to the health of our workforce and as well as our community. So I'd like to defer this, that's my conversation piece, until next week when we get the fire chief out there and put your question to the chief. And that is, what is the extent of the responsibilities put on the chief and his team to go down there and take immediate action? Because it appears...
Sorry.
Mr. Commissioner McCarty, would you feel comfortable that we would actually approve this if that is what we want to do, and just have the chief come in next week and just kind of go through the process of what they do? Because no matter what the chief says, it doesn't change the process. The process is the process, correct?
Yes, and
I'm
the
not
fire
quite
department's
comfortable
not
with
put
that.
in
I
any
owe it
danger
to-
because we'll actually de-energize that. If this is a vault, every feeder, everything in there is de-energized for the fire department to safely go down and get one of us out. Once they're out, scene's clear, then we energize.
And that might be that you take away the power source, whether it's power or it's a chemical substance that has found itself in there. But I think that this is, again, I don't want to belabor the point. All we need to do is get the fire chief or one of his deputies present to ask this question about the scope of responsibilities and the coordination between his department and your department in circumstances that could prove very, very dangerous. And so I don't think it's a big deal to just defer this, come on back in a month. It's not as if it's 6 months, and let's see where we're going to go on this.
I guess,
Commissioner Arkin, I do have a question for the speaker, if you wouldn't mind.
go ahead, Mr. Astori.
Sir, can you tell me, or at least give me some sort of an idea of how frequent would something like this happen, that you engage our fire department
Slim to
to come
none.
out and clear the area? Say, how many times has this occurred in the past?
In my 31 years,
21
it's
months.
happened about maybe 3 times.
So then, would it be fair to characterize what you said as infrequent? This is nothing that happens on a weekly, daily, or even sometimes monthly basis.
No,
It's
not at
as
all.
infrequent as 3
Yeah.
times you said in your career, correct?
Yes, that's correct. And you have to
Right,
understand,
thank you
our
so very
electrical system is not tied in with water or sewer. We're our own system. So for things to get into our vaults, you know, it's through a vent or something like that. But all in all, it's only been a couple times.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I have a question,
Yes,
I
sir.
guess in light of the questions that were raised. And Mr. Commissioner McCarley, Commissioner Abkarian, they asked questions, and sir, you were able to answer. My question is, are these steps that you describe, are they written down anywhere as part of the training program, the policies, the procedures that the workers should follow, should they come across with a situation like this?
Yeah, it's basically called 911. If we have any worries about anything like that, we call the fire department. We're not training that, we're linemen. So anything like that, we call them, they're the professionals.
Okay, and that's part of their training. They know that if they encounter a situation like this,
We work
they shouldn't
together.
try to be is hardworking people and try to help the situation, and the first thing, they're trained on that,
Yes, they are.
okay?
I'm sorry, go ahead. If you had a
I
question.
wanted to send it back to Commissioner McCarley, see if he has any other questions or concerns.
No, I appreciate it. I hope that the commission is understanding. There's a concern I have, having some history with these type of events in another life that I lived. And I just want the question, and perhaps both senior representatives, both our fine spokesperson for DWP today, and as well as a senior member of the fire department, can jointly respond to that question of how both departments will interact at a time of crisis in which there is either something as simple as a noxious odor, or something even more dangerous that could cause immediate loss of life or severe injury. And at a point in time when you need to put highly qualified individuals into that cistern, that underground vault, and take immediate action to protect the integrity of our electricity distribution system or water, whatever. So I think this is one of those questions that is far more important than we appreciate at this particular moment, because it gets down to sort of existential issues facing the city. That is the survival of a city at a point in time when something very bad takes place. So that's why just that one moment, maybe 5 minutes, to get both of these extraordinary gentlemen or women, as the case may be, in front of us, and we ask that question.
Mr. Chair, I just have, Ms. McCarthy, I just have one quick question. Regardless of what the answer would be from the police, fire chief, or, I'm sorry, I didn't get your.
John.
Or John, the class specifications are not going to change because they're going to still be based on what the industry standard is for this type of a job specification, no matter what the answer would be. So I think a presentation next meeting, I am 100% in favor of, that we would actually have the chief and maybe John come in next week, next meeting, not next week, next meeting, and clarify everything. That I'm 100% in favor of. But I would like to approve the specifications as possible, and then have a presentation next meeting as to what the process is, because that's not going to change the specification being approved today.
And
I'm willing to second that, especially when I was told that the occurrence of such an event is really, really, really infrequent. So I will second the motion.
And I want to ask Ms. Varpetian if she has any comments, or what would be the process of either deferring this to the next meeting, or if you have any other additional comments.
No, just that at the moment you have a motion and a second, and we would invite any further discussion on that motion. And then we would call the question, vote on it, and then if it gets approved, then we would request that a presentation be made on this at the next meeting. If it doesn't get approved, then this will come back at the next meeting for consideration and review.
So let me make sure that my motion is clear. My motion is to approve both class specifications as presented to us today, and request that a presentation be provided to us by the fire department and by our Glendale Water and Power in reference to what the process is of this emergency. If there's an emergency, who's called, what happens, who goes down there, and kind of give us a report or a presentation on that particular issue. That's my motion.
And did I hear Commissioner Astorian second that motion, or do I have a second?
Yes, I did second it, and I will second it for the second time.
Okay.
We're a little bit slow, Mr. Astorian, sorry.
So the question is, any further discussion on the motion? If not, then we would take a vote.
Okay. Do we have further questions, discussions? No. Roll call?
Commissioner McCarley?
I'll abstain, but I do support the latter part of the former chair's motion.
Commissioner Kazarian?
I'm going to abstain because part of the discussion, I could not hear a word, so I don't know where we ended up.
Commissioner Abkarian?
Yes.
Commissioner Astorian?
Yes.
Chair Hartunian?
Yes, and just to make sure, we will have in the minutes the notes that we asked for the presentation, and those are
Correct.
part of the condition of the motion also, and we will have the presentation for the next
Yes.
meeting. Okay. Yes.
Next item is class specification for approval, police shift supervisor series.
Is that number 10, or are we on number
Number 8.
Number 8.
Okay, Ms. Martin?
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, the subject before you is the updated class specification for our police shift supervisory series. This classification series was last revised in 2010, and periodically we work on updating class specifications, and this particular item is a regular update to bring the class specification up to date. And in addition to that, we do have a request by the Glendale Police Department to remove the current typing requirement of 20 words per minute for the police custody shift supervisor classification. That change would essentially align with the entry-level classification of police custody officer, which also does not have a typing requirement. The department believes that the typing speed requirement is not essential to successfully perform the duties of that particular position. I will note that the removal of the 20 words per minute typing speed would not apply to the second classification in the series, which is the police communications shift supervisor. The typing speed associated with that particular classification would remain intact. The Glendale City Employees Association has been given an opportunity to review the changes, and they have not expressed any concerns at this time.
Okay, any concerns or questions in the commission?
Our jail, if I might add, our jail administrator, Juan Lopez, is available virtually, should you have any questions, as well as Anaid Navarro from our staff, who also worked on this class specification update.
With all the, I have a comment. I mean, how much lower are we going to really go with this? 20 words a minute? You type one word or a second, and or one word every 2 seconds. It would be 30 words a minute. So, I mean, how low can we go? 20 words a minute at this point is just, I mean, to eliminate that, I just don't understand it. I personally don't understand how much lower. I know, Mr. Kazarian, at one point, we had some issues with secretarial work for the city attorney's office, and we had some issues, but 20 words a minute. I mean, seriously, how much lower can you go? I'm not in favor of removing 20 words per minute. I'm not. And I'm not going to support any bulletin that requires that anyone in the city that uses any computer in the city has less than 20 words per minute requirement. I'm just not going to support it. Just doesn't make any sense, doesn't have any, it makes no sense whatsoever for us to go below 20 words a minute. So with that, I just wanted to make that statement because I'm not in favor of lowering the requirement any lower than 20 words a minute.
Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, I have a question, Chair.
Go ahead, Commissioner Kazarian.
Thank you. Because I don't have the packet available to me, is the requirement that Commissioner Abkarian is referring to? I don't recall that section in looking at the packet when I got it. Is it that the requirement be that a person be able to type exactly what?
It eliminates the requirement for anyone to type 20 words per minute.
So there'll be no requirement that they type any amount of words per minute, is that
Just for
it?
the police custody shift supervisor, that's correct.
Chair Hartunian, perhaps there's
Okay.
a rationale for why that section
Sure,
was
I was
removed.
going to ask for that. Go ahead.
Greetings, Mr. Chair, members of the Commission. Russ Kwan, Senior Human Resources Analyst. Part of the rationale behind making this adjustment is the fact that the entry-level position for the custody series, if you will, requires no typing. And the purpose behind that is because when somebody is taken into the jail facility, our custody officers don't do any typing. They pretty much focus in on data entry of individuals' names, like identification information. There's a very limited need for actual typing of
But isn't that typing?
correspondence.
If you put somebody's name, address, phone number, some information about the...
It's more like data entry, which is a different measure of typing speed. Because when we do a typing speed of 20 words per minute, that's based off of correspondence, like typing a letter, which unfortunately our custody officers just don't do.
How about custody officer shift supervisor?
Custody shift supervisor, the most that they would be typing is an evaluation. However, the individuals that would be promoting into this level of a position just don't have that experience.
Don't have the 20 words per minute
Correct.
typing experience.
That's correct.
But they have a data entry experience.
They do have data entry experience because of the fact that they have to do it as part of the job.
Is Mr. Lopez available?
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, I'm available for any questions.
A custody shift supervisor does not need to type any documentation, anything that would actually require some typing knowledge. I mean, really, 20 words a minute is as slow as I have ever seen it. I've never seen a job requirement that goes below 20. I've never seen it in all these years. And to say that we're going to eliminate that too, I'm just looking, you can get to 30 just doing this. So I don't understand this. And I know you can lower the requirement to fit everyone, but why lower the requirement instead of upgrading our custody supervisors?
Well, if I may, Mr. Chair, members of the commission, supervisors they're required to do reports and logs and that kind of a thing. They're not required to do it for speed. It's equivalent to a field sergeant or a supervisor in any other area in the city that would have a typing test requirement to do a report for speed. Staff that are supervisors do go ahead and do reports, but for the most part, they're not doing, a lot of them that are going to be testing for this position are not doing this for speed right now. They're doing data entry, and this is a skill set that they'll have to essentially develop that doesn't align with what they came in with originally.
Chair, can I ask a question for clarification?
Sure, Mr. Kazari.
Is this a promotional recruitment or an open recruitment?
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, if approved, the intention is to remain promotional.
Okay, all right, so those who would be applying to become a supervisor of the jail facility will be coming from within the jail facility, having occupied other data entry type positions. Is that accurate?
That is correct. They would be coming from the police custody officer position, which at this point does not require typing.
Okay, so if you do know, Mr. Kwan, what position within the facility does require typing? Certainly there's entry to be made, right, as to custodies.
Just for clarification, you mean within the police building or within the jail facility?
No, this is limited to the jail facility, obviously, right?
For the jail facility, they really only have two positions, which would be the police custody officer position, which is the individuals that, process the arrestees, and then you have the custody shift supervisors, who, which is the class specification we're discussing now, as well as our jail administrator. So at this point, I don't believe that the jail administrator has a typing speed requirement. At this point, the shift supervisor does.
And the shift supervisor's requirement is what, 20 words a minute?
That is correct.
Okay. And so I'm lost all of a sudden. And we are talking about a promotional recruitment for a position that does or does not have a 20 word per minute requirement.
Does not.
Well, at this time, it does have the typing requirement. However, we're asking permission from the commission to remove that.
No, the
Because
the custody does not have requirement for typing.
Correct.
The lower specification, the lower level, but there.
I'm just trying to ascertain whether or not there will be someone employed within the facility that does have a typing requirement and capability, so that inmates are processed in a timely manner. That's all I'm interested in. If there is such a person, a different role, a duty that is being fulfilled, and this particular recruitment or the promotional recruitment does not require typing, then I don't have a problem. Otherwise, I would have the same concerns that Commissioner Abkarian has raised.
Ms. Martin, go ahead.
I was just going to also note that the police chief is available to answer questions. I see that he's likely wanting to say something.
Go ahead, Chief. Do you have any comments, or you want to add to the discussion or answer the questions? Thank you for being here.
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, if I could just weigh in for a moment and maybe just reemphasize a couple things. This would be a promotional exam, would be our intent, the way we're going at. The position that would feed the supervisor's position does not require a typing requirement, and the people who are going to, would be the potential candidates to compete for that, do not have a typing requirement. Now, yet they have all successfully processed inmates or arrestees and custodies and successfully done that. There was a time, if I go back to my career, I think we actually had to get a typewriter out and type. I say that at some risk that some people that might be watching this have no idea what a typewriter is. So now what this would do is align the supervisor's position with the skill sets of the underling. Like when we do police sergeant, they have to type evaluations. We don't require a typing test. It didn't require a typing test from me. I think in order to promote candidates, we want to test for the skill sets that are there. They successfully do their current job. I don't think there's a need to have this typing requirement in there. We'll have successful candidates who can successfully supervise because they've successfully done the job underneath them without the requirement.
And to be clear, Chief, Chair, with your permission, there is somebody underneath the supervisor that does have typing skills and fulfills that role which requires typing.
In a manner of speaking, Commissioner Gazarian, yes, the people that they supervise are custody officers. The custody officer does not have a typing requirement as part of the testing process, though they all do. I'm going to make it more data entry than they do real, in terms of typing, like typing a letter. And they have to successfully do that to do the job. So they all successfully do that now without having the requirement there. This would just put a requirement. This existing requirement, I think, is a bit of a leftover from days, from older days when requirements were a little bit different. So we're trying to modernize this and make it appropriate so that we can take those who have supervisory skill sets that have successfully completed the lower classification and give them an opportunity to compete for the supervisory classification.
All right, thank you, Chief.
The Chair Artunian, if I may, Chief, I was looking at page 3 of report on their minimum requirements, and where 20 words per minute has been stricken out. Would Commissioner Afgharian be comfortable if we were to add, at least instead of that 20 words per minute, familiarity with data entry clause in there?
Commissioner Astorian, are you proposing to have a language that says instead of type accurately at 20 words per minute, instead of that language, are you proposing to say as part of the requirements, data entry abilities?
Familiarity with data entry. But of course, I won't be proposing it if it does not assuage Commissioner Afgharian's concern.
I just, Mr. Commissioner Surgeon, thank you for that comment. I don't want to be difficult, and I want everyone to succeed. I think we're just setting up the shift supervisor who eventually would want to be promoted to some other higher position to fail. If you are a regular custody officer, you should have by now had at least 20 words, and who doesn't have in this day and age 20 words a minute requirement? It's very minimal. It really doesn't take that long to do 20 words a minute. I mean, I type 80 words a minute, so I'm not, 20 for me doesn't make any sense. But the chief says we don't need it. I'm just one vote. If there's a motion to get it approved, I'll abstain and let this go through. I don't have a problem. I just think that we're setting up a custody shift supervisor to fail, because eventually down the road they're going to be needing to meet 40 words a minute requirement or 35 words a minute, and if you don't get started at the shift supervisor, then where do you eventually get it? But it is what it is. I just don't like us to lower our minimum requirements.
Do we have Mr. McCarley?
Yeah, I think to dive into this much broader issue, and certainly Commissioner Afgharian has brought this to the forefront regarding this particular class specification. I've raised it numerous instances across our workforce in the city, where there has been a movement advanced by I'm not sure whom, and that movement is to reduce or terminate any requirement for typing capability, whether we call that data entry or typing capability. Even going so far as minimizing, I think we went further than that. We removed the requirement for type speed in the city attorney's office for clerks employed in that particular part of the city. So it just appears to me that whether this is an instance in which some of our leadership believes that technology has advanced so far that we don't really need to impose what is a sort of a minimal manual skill that every single person that is in front of me today on this screen has most probably satisfied at some point in their career progression. It's so simple to achieve, as Commissioner Afgharian indicated. It is an essential skill. We have not yet made it to a point where we can dictate accurately across the board. And every single person today, once again, I look at everybody in front of me virtually or physically, and every single person has hit a keyboard today to enter information and to type information. So it just seems to me that we are setting folks up for failure if we say we have no typing requirement. Just come in here and hunt and peck with your fingers. Well, that's okay. Just be sure to hunt and peck at the rate of speed that we've suggested, 20 words a minute, which is so de minimis that it shouldn't cause a big restriction or impediment toward hiring individuals to work for a fine city. So we can go ahead with this. It's, I suppose, from a lot of folks' perspective, it's not that important, but I think Chair Abkarian or former Chair Abkarian raised an issue that has concerned me for the last 2 years, in which every single one of these types of requirements have been eliminated.
Chair, may I be heard?
Sure, Commissioner Kazarian.
Thank you. So Commissioner McCarley raised a very important point. And it made me think of the following. Unless these job specifications also have a requirement that the applicant must be able to read and write in the English language, which obviously, as Commissioner McCarley suggested, everybody on this call, virtually or physically on this hearing, on this meeting, probably does read and write English, but yet it's not a requirement for us in our daily affairs. It's understood. Now, if the 20 words a minute is something that is so de minimis, that is a given, that one with one finger can type 20 words in a given minute. And the idea of eliminating the requirement is born out of the concern that it eliminates, or rather the interest of eliminating an additional testing process in the system of promoting someone. Then I would say, fine, do away with it, because you're trying to streamline the process of approving the promotion, because it is a given that just about anybody in the 21st century can probably type 20 words a minute with one finger, versus, what I learned typing in 10th grade on a typewriter with essentially 8 fingers. So if that's the basis or the starting point, I say fine. What are we debating about? But if it's not, but if it is something where we think that the performance of the subject, the individual who will be promoted to that position, may not be able to fulfill the duties, then it's something entirely different. But having heard the chief indicate that those positions, the system within the jail facility of Glendale Police Department has operated fluidly, and I'm paraphrasing, then that's okay too. So I'm prepared to proceed, and for lack of a better phrase, let the chips fall where they may. If this is something that requires commission approval to eliminate the 20 words a minute typing skill, I respect my colleagues' perspectives and views. I have mine as well, but that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Commissioner Kazarian. Any other questions or comments? I have some comments, I guess, or questions. Anyone else? Okay, so I go ahead, Mr. Flores.
I have a comment. Mr. Chair.
I'm sorry, Mr. Lopez. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
The Administrator Juan Lopez here. I just wanted to mention that the last time that we came to the commission a couple of years back, I believe it was in 2007, to lower the requirement, we actually had a viable candidate from within that did fail the typing test. Was a skill set that they just didn't have based on the way everything is formulated now in data entry. So the individual was given the opportunity once he came and appealed it with the Service Commission to retake the test. So it is challenging now, especially with the new century folks that are coming up. Everything is done via texting on phones and that type of a thing. And, you know, it's really kind of hard for some of them to pick up a speed in terms of typing in light of what we do. You know, it's just not set up that way. I've been in an administrative position for 25 years, and I got to tell you, I've never been asked to submit a report within, you know, a certain time frame where I have to go ahead and sit there and type 40 words per minute. You know, and I've submitted a lot of reports and you know, stats and what have you throughout the years. So all I've got to say is that, you know, I mean, if the line level folks that are not required to have a typing test, and we're not requiring that of a supervisor, then we'll probably have to amend the people that are coming in, along with anyone that wants to promote to my position at some point in time.
Thank you,
That's
Mr.
all.
Lopez. So I guess that partly answers the question that I had, because when I see these proposals to do away with the typing requirements, my initial reaction is that, like my fellow commissioners have expressed, is who can't do the 20 words per minute or whatever the requirement is, because we're assuming everybody in this day and age can do it. And then if that's the assumption we're going off of, my question was then what's the harm of keeping the requirement there if it is of concern to us or other people? But from what I'm understanding from Mr. Lopez is that, or the chief, that we do have some otherwise qualified candidates who may actually not meet this requirement. Is that correct, the typing requirement?
That's correct, yes.
May I make a statement?
Sure.
Chair. We have never ever designed a work specification for specific people. I mean, that's not what Civil Service Commission is all about. We don't design job specification to fit a particular person, because that would basically do away. And what people are saying, that we're just rubber stamp and we're nobodies, which is what I've heard last week. It just basically totally sets aside what the charter gave us to be a transparent job specification that fits the job. I come in as a police custody officer knowing that if I want to be a supervisor, I need to meet 20 words per minute. That has been in the specification. So if they wanted to be a supervisor, all it took for them was to go 1001, 1002, 1003, one note. 1001, 1002, one. It's one letter per every 3 seconds. That would give you 20 words a minute. So for us to eliminate, as I said, there has to be a progression of somebody getting better. To say, well, we're going to eliminate this because people that are there are not going to meet the qualification, knowing that if they wanted to be a custody supervisor, they needed to meet the 20 words per minute requirements, means that we're tailoring now job specification to fit specific individuals. And that's not what Civil Service Commission was all about, from what I understand it. But again, I'm not going to support this. I've already said it. I've already said what my reasoning was. I apologize for taking more time on this. I just can't support a job specification that there's a supervisor that would lower the standards, that would set them up for failure in the future. When they came into the job, they knew what they needed to do to become a supervisor.
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, Commissioner Abkaran, I do want to reassure you that the intent behind this wasn't to tailor it towards one individual. That is not the way that we set up class specifications. The intent behind this was to make the supervisor position the expected experience for the supervisor experience on day one be consistent with the entry-level position, which would be at the typing speed. Now, we do have higher expectations in the sense that we do have a 3-year experience requirement for a supervisor. In order for them to qualify, that they have to be 3 years as a custody officer as well as 1 year as a senior custody officer. However, the intent was to make the typing expectation or ability to type consistent with the entry-level position. So the intent was not to tailor it towards an individual.
Just a point of clarification, is it that the individual would be completing a pre-populated form on a computer, or are they, what do you mean by data entry versus typing?
Yes.
Is there a form and then somebody starts putting in someone's name? How much information is entered into it?
From my understanding, and Mr. Lopez can confirm this, but yes, the forms are essentially pre-populated entries that the custody officers would need to complete to fill out name, contact information, date of birth, and things like that.
Is there any description that goes along with that? Do they have to type up a narrative?
That I'm not quite sure, so I'd have to defer to Juan Lopez.
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, no, there isn't any notes or anything that they're required to type in. When you're processing somebody into the system, our system integrates fully into the LA County booking system, along with all the other Type 1 jail facilities in Los Angeles County. We all basically use the same process, and it's all primarily data entry. And it's not, you can complete this process in a very quickly and efficient time. It doesn't require a skill set of speed typing. It just is not set up that way. Typewriters were removed from custody facilities in Los Angeles County in 1995. They have not been used from that point straight forward. That the elimination for the typing test was updated several years in the early 2000s just to bring everybody up to the same level of competency and where they need to be. So anyone that comes in wouldn't come in with expectation of knowing that you would have a typing requirement to be a supervisor when you don't have that as a custody officer to begin with. It's not something that you're going to be reviewing or evaluating amongst the rank and file. So it really is something that is not required within this industry, in this field, to be efficient and competent. It's not. And you know, when I came in, yes, it was. It's just not something that's required now.
And Mr. Lopez, if I could just maybe ask one more question, what would be the consequence of not approving the bulletin? Would you then make it an open recruitment because there is no skill set within the city?
That would be really difficult to do because the skill sets that we have are mirrored by everyone else within the industry, Type 1 jails. So they would be facing the same situation as my current staff would be.
Go ahead, Chief.
Not to belabor this, but just to make it just a quick echo of a couple of things. One is I don't think the typing test is necessary. Somebody who's already been a custody officer will have demonstrated the skill set to successfully do what we need to do within that facility. And I'm looking to streamline processes to get people through that and be able to do the promotions. This is not designed for any particular individual, but I think the typing test is not, in this environment, isn't testing for what we need in a supervisor. And we'll have the quality of people that we need without this requirement.
Chair Howard Jr., may I be heard again, please?
Sure, Commissioner Kazari.
Thank you. Unless I misunderstood I forgot the name of the individual from the jail facility, Juan Lopez. Juan Lopez, I thought, was referring to a prior instance where they had come or he had come to the Civil Service Commission. Is this encounter now, this discourse that we're having, pertaining to someone who cannot type 20 words a minute, or is it what Juan Lopez suggested, that in the past the Civil Service Commission had made an exception? Because hearing the chief, it does not sound like this is something that's being asked of us to tailor make a position, which I would disagree. I mean, I would agree with my fellow Commissioner Abkarian that we're not in the business of tailor making anything, and we're not a rubber stamp. I've been a very vocal critic of those who think we are a rubber stamp. So which is it? Is this that, or is this not that? Whoever can answer that question, I'd be grateful.
If I may, Mr. Guzari, this is not an attempt to tailor this to any particular individual. My point in mentioning that was that several years back, we tried to bring this up to current status of what the requirements were, and it was not approved by the commission. And as a result, we had a internal candidate who didn't pass. And then that individual came to the commission at that time and was granted basically the ability to go ahead and retake the test. So we tried to bring it up to current standards several years back. The commission did not approve it. So there were consequences associated with that. If we were to open it up outward, we would be facing the same situation that we're facing now. It's just basically not a skill set that is required in this day and age.
Okay, and that's what I'm hearing from you in the final analysis. Forgive me, Chair, for the response to Mr. Lopez. I'm hearing from you in the final analysis that you do not believe this is a requirement to fulfill the position. I hear you loud and clear. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
Mr. Chair, if I can just add one brief comment. During this discussion, I just very quickly did do a check among a few neighboring agencies to determine what their requirements are for typing for similar classifications. And I was only able to check 3, but I did not find typing requirement within any of the class specifications for those 3 agencies. So
For a supervisor's position?
Lead jailer, supervisor.
And which cities are these?
One is Burbank, the other one is Garden Grove, and the third was Santa Monica. So just, I did want to add that classifications, not all classifications list a typing requirement. However, we are all expected to type, given the different level of positions that we hold and the different job requirements that we are required to fulfill. Not all of our job classifications have a listed typing speed and accuracy typing test, which would be a component of the selection process. Those more and more, as time has evolved, are more limited to the clerical classifications, and the classifications which require regular typing from a copy, typing a letter, correspondence, and items of that nature.
Thank you, Ms. Martin.
Certainly.
Any other questions?
Chair, I'm ready to move the approval for the police chief supervisor series.
Let me just have one more comment or question. I guess in an effort to consolidate some of the concerns and questions raised. On one hand, we were saying this is just not a skill set that's required in this industry for this class specification, which I understand. On the other hand, initially I would think that, like others have expressed, that who can type 20 words a minute? And that I thought that was the initial reasoning behind doing away with these typing requirements, because we think, everybody in this day and age can do it. On the other hand, which is concerning for me, if this is not tailored, or if nobody's trying to tailor this classification for any specific person or persons, then if we have a pool of 5 or 10 candidates, are we concerned that none of these people can meet this requirement? And is that gonna create problems for promoting? Is that a major concern? Mr. Lopez or Chief?
I'll take that. Mr. Chair, members of the commission. Basically, for me, it is a concern. And the concern is that we're asking them to develop a skill set that they have not been using while they've been employed with us. And as was previously mentioned, it's not an industry standard. It's just not something that's used. I think the perception is that custody officers spend the majority of their time doing data entry or booking people, and that's just simply not the case. 75% of the job is dealing with inmates and prisoners and movement, supervision, and that type of a thing. We do not really consume a great deal of our time doing data entry. And aligning us with other supervisory positions within the county and in the industry. If I have 5 internals who want to put in for this but have never met the requirement, they now have to try to develop that skill set to go ahead and test for this position. Because the jail administrator position does not have a typing text, if they wanted to go for that, they would have to develop a skill set that they won't be required to use on the job. So, there's a concern there.
Okay, so your last comment makes sense for me also. If you set the requirement for them to meet for the recruitment, then it's just for the testing, and they're not going to use it as part of their job. Okay.
Just a quick note, I'm looking at Huntington Park, City of Huntington Park, and they do require 20 words a minute, just so you know. Let's just go ahead and move forward, I think.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
I think Mr. Astorian was going to
Yeah, I did make a motion to approve the class specifications for police ship supervisor series.
Okay.
I'll second that motion.
Roll call.
Commissioner McCarley?
Abstain.
Commissioner Gazarian?
Yes.
Commissioner Abkarian?
abstain.
Commissioner Astorian?
Yes.
Chair Hartunian?
Yes. What's next?
Class specification for approval, building repair series.
Ms. Martin?
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, attached for your approval is the revised class specification for the building repair series. The series encompasses 3 classifications: building repairer, senior building repairer, and building repairer crew supervisor. The class specification was last updated in 2006, and the department is seeking to bring the classification up to date by adding some boilerplate language that exists across some of our other class specifications, including the exceptional customer service language. The GCA has been given the opportunity to review the specification changes and has not expressed any concerns at the time of the agenda posting. With us today is Mr. Kevin Todd, the Assistant Director of Public Works, as well as Ms. Ida Babayan from our staff, who may be able to answer any questions you may have.
All right, I move to approve, just to put a motion on the table.
I had a question, Commissioner McCarley. I was going to ask, what's the typing requirement for this class?
Yeah, you have a sense of humor there, Mr. Chair. Appropriate for this evening.
All right. Do we have a second?
I'll second Commissioner McCarley's motion.
Mr. Petrosian?
Commissioner McCarley?
Yes.
Commissioner Gazarian?
Yes.
Commissioner Abkarian?
Yes.
Commissioner Astorian?
Yes.
Chair Hartunian?
Yes. Next.
Class specification and job bulletin for approval, Chief Human Resources Officer.
Ms. Martin.
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, for this particular item, I will defer to our city manager, Mr. Rubik Golanyan.
Good evening, Mr. Golanian.
Good evening.
Thanks for joining us tonight.
It is my pleasure. I apologize. I was multitasking. That's the reason why I didn't attend in person. I wanted to express my gratitude to now Commissioner Akarian for having served as chair of this very important commission for the past year or so. And also equally congratulate Chair Hartunian as being appointed to chair this commission moving forward.
Thank you, Mr. Golanian.
This item is presented to you, Commission, for approval for the newly named Chief Human Resources Officer. We chose this title to be more closely aligned with the recent shifts in the human resources industry, as well as in an effort to make it stand out amongst a large number of HR director positions that are currently being recruited for in the region. The bulletin, the job specification you see is an updated class spec from the last time that we actually recruited for the head of this department as HR director, and this was conducted over 14 years ago. And as you can imagine, a lot has changed in the human resources arena and city government and the world since then. This is a critical position on the executive team and quite frankly, for the whole organization. The impact of the working relationships and approach of the person in this position is far-reaching to all levels of the city's operations. This position works very closely with the deputy city manager and the city manager and the Civil Service Commission. And in addition to the traditional human resources functions, I'm looking for a candidate with the aptitude and foresight to implement much needed organization-wide changes necessitated by the challenges of the current times and that of a more modern organization. We have some archaic and outdated systems and processes in place, and I'm the first to admit it. And a good example was your very insightful debate over the requirement for a typing test. That's just a simple example that we need to work on to modernize. We have hired an executive recruiter firm to help us out with the recruitment, and I'm looking forward to bringing an update on the process. I'm happy to entertain any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Mr. Golanian. And just for the record, Ms. Martin has stepped out of the chambers for this discussion. Anyone has any question?
Move to approve.
Second.
If we could just speak to that, I do believe that there was an item, that there was potentially a correction.
Yes, we'd like to make one change. Yes, thank you for the reminder, Ms. Arpetian. One change I would like to make, the educational requirement had said a master's degree is required. Typically, we make that a desirable requirement, and I'd like to change that as desirable as opposed to a requirement, so that we don't limit the pool of candidates.
So the motion would be to approve the bulletin with the change in the education side that says master's degree in public administration or related fields desirable.
Yes, sir.
I so move
Second.
for approval as amended.
Okay.
Mr. Peterson?
Commissioner McCarley,
Yes.
Commissioner Gazarian,
Yes.
Commissioner Abkarian,
Yes.
Commissioner Astorian,
Yes.
Chair Hartunian.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, Mr.
Galania.
Galania.
What's next?
Reports?
Ms. Martin?
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, this is the past due performance evaluation report. As you can see from the report, there are 11 departments with no past dues and 3 departments with a total of 23 past dues that are on first notice. Overall, I think the departments are doing a great job with keeping on top of these evaluations. In particular, I will note that during the months of November and December, a number of our staff were out due to COVID-related reasons. So the fact that we have been able to keep on top of these evaluations with 23 past dues on first notice, I think is outstanding, frankly. With that, this is a note and file item. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to try and answer them.
Any questions? Note and file. What's next?
Civil Service Commission, staff comments.
Do we have any comments?
I have, go ahead, Mr. Kazarian.
Thank you. I just want to congratulate, I don't know if it's still an interim chief examiner or a permanent chief examiner, but I want to congratulate our chief examiner for the evening. I think she's doing a wonderful job, and I hope that her position, if it's not permanent yet, becomes permanent. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Gazarian. I truly appreciate your feedback.
My comment, I just want to make sure that both the employees and management understand. I heard this comment last week, and it's been really, really bothering me. I've served on this commission now going into this 4th term. And I've heard someone say, you guys do nothing but to rubber stamp everything that people say in this chambers. And not only that's not true, but we have gone into fights with people, with management and employees to ensure transparency in this chamber. And for any employee that believes they're wronged, they should come in, and they don't need an attorney in any way, shape, or form. They can come to these chambers, and we will treat them with due respect without an attorney necessary, because we want to make sure that the employee doesn't have to spend $50,000 to grieve their grievances with this commission. You come in here, and the commission does not require you to get an attorney. You can grieve your grievances. If something has happened to you, come to this commission. We will hear you once you file your issues. And the same is with management. If you have an employee that doesn't do what they're supposed to do, come to this commission. And if you have the proper progressive discipline, we will make sure that that's done. But for anyone that believes this commission is a rubber stamp and we do nothing, I will promise you that and I've seen my colleagues as well, take this job very, very, very seriously. And regardless of what the consequences are to us individually, and trust me, for me personally, just going through what I went through just to get appointed, there are substantial consequences sometimes to us. We take this job extremely, extremely seriously. And regardless of consequences to us, we will uphold transparency to ensure people are elected or selected to jobs that are qualified for the job, and there no personal favoritism is put into this commission. And I further want to say that every report we receive in this commission, I hold as true. If I ever find out a report has come in here that is not true, that somebody has done something to that report that would make it untrue, then I'm going to ask for a full-on investigation against whoever that person is that did not bring us a full report of everything that we've asked for in this commission. And I say this just because I don't want there to be any problem when I actually refer whoever it was to the proper authorities if a report comes into us that does not specifically purport what is actually out there in reference to whatever reporting might be. So with that, I'm sorry that I have to talk about this, but I wanted to make sure that everyone is clear that we protect the employees in this city regardless of consequences to us, and we will continue to do it, and we will do it until this last day that I'm actually appointed to this commission. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Abkarian. And I would open it.
Chair, if I may echo,
Sure.
With your permission, Commissioner Abkarian's frustrations are heartfelt because I've endured the same frustrations in the past, though I'm not privy to the latest sentiments apparently that have reached Mr. Abkarian, Commissioner Abkarian's ears. But I could say the following, that in my now third term as a commissioner in the Civil Service Commission, I believe I have at times upset management and at times I've upset employees. But I can assure everyone, and I think I speak for every other fellow commissioner on this commission, that we do what we think is right, unbiased, and undeterred, and detached from allegiances or alliances. And I challenge and dare anyone to show us otherwise. So I want to thank each of the fellow commissioners for their service, and I want to encourage each of you. We will stay true to our mission and our goal and our objective to be unbiased arbiters of whatever is brought before us. And critics are a dime a dozen, and ignorance is a bliss. And I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Kazarian. Anyone else?
Chair, I want to congratulate your appointment to the chairmanship of this very important and consequential committee. I have known you for a long, long time, and I am of full belief that you not only will excel at this position, but your empathy and compassion will help you along for a long, long way. Commissioner Abkarian, past Chair Abkarian, I've learned from you. I appreciate you and your passion about transparency and making and conducting stuff in its right manner is always, always appreciated. Thank you for your service, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Asterian, and congratulations to you as well as being selected as the chair, as vice chair, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Astorian, as well, and please accept my heartfelt congratulations also on being elected as the vice chair. I look forward to serving with you on this very important commission, and it's a very special day for me today for many reasons, and a couple of them I knew coming in, and a couple I didn't know. I will start with the latter, which is the discussion we're having today and the sentiments that are being expressed and echoed today. And I want to join my fellow commissioners, Mr. Abkarian, Mr. Gazarian, and I know I share this with Commissioner Astorian and Commissioner McCarley regarding the role and the purpose of this commission. And as I'm taking over the chairmanship, I want to echo and I want to express my commitment for serving our community, our employees, and welcome everyone to come in front of this commission in any way, shape, or form, like Mr. Abkarian mentioned, without the need for attorneys and raise their concerns. And that is why we are here today, and that is why my fellow commissioners have been serving for so many years, way longer than I have, and I've been on the commission for a couple of years now, just about 2.5, maybe 3 years. and I look forward to serving more. And I will absolutely do my best to live up to the high standards that have been set by my predecessors, especially by Mr. Abkarian. I have learned a lot from you, sir, over the last year of your chairmanship, and even before that, as a commissioner, fellow commissioner. And I started, I believe, under the chairmanship of Commissioner Kazarian. I have learned a lot from you as well, and I have looked up to your committed and passionate service, and I promise and I commit myself to upholding the values and everything that this commission stands for and everything that you have fought for so many years. And I will need your help moving forward, and I will need your guidance, and I thank you ahead of time for all that. Before I thank the rest of our staff here, I just want to make a quick comment. The reason why it was special today for me, because I first appeared in these chambers about 23 years ago as a junior of Glendale High School, having won a national boxing championship as part of the Glendale PAL program. And it was, even after winning a boxing championship, I was here for the first time, about the same height, much lighter, and I was, in my city's, mayor's chambers, and I was recognized for my achievements, and it was very nice, and it was a little intimidating. I would never ever think about, what would happen 20, 22, 23 years later, and it is very, very interesting, and I guess I'm
Lost for words,
yes,
huh?
I truly am. What I will say is that it is a special day for me to, as a kid who first stood in that, in front of the chambers 23 years ago, to be here with my fellow commissioners and to be part of such important discussions. It is a true honor, and I thank you all for the privilege and the trust, and I again commit myself and promise to try to live up to the high standards that have been set by this commission and my fellow commissioners and chair people. Thank you all very much. Next item, sir.
Adjournment.
Move to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
I beat
Thank
you
you.
to it, Mr. Kazarian.
Good night.
See you guys.